Spotlight is proudly sponsored by HEC Media.
Today on Spotlight, a St. Louis blues icon who shaped the genre with his distinctive sound. Plus, Mizzou shows us how over-consuming protein can be bad for your health. And then go behind the scenes at this year's Shakespeare in the Park performance. But first, the St. Louis company behind worldwide attractions. It's Sunday and you're watching the multiple Emmy Award-winning Spotlight.
If you've visited a major museum, zoo, or other international cultural attraction, including the 3 largest aquariums in the world, there's a good chance your experience, at least in part, was thanks to some folks from here in St. Louis. Local design company PGAV is the creative mastermind behind everything from the Smithsonian National Air and Space Museum to the 5-story aquarium in Abu Dhabi to their newest project, the updated World's Fair exhibit at the Missouri History Museum.
Most of what we do here at PJV is catered for guests. We want the guests to have the best possible time and to experience whatever that storyline it is that we're being asked to create. Anything from creating a different world, a different setting, to just like in the case of the History Museum, creating something, presenting something in a historical context that a guest has never seen before, especially being something that was built in 1904 and so taking imagery from the time period and recreating it in a way that gives the guests an experience that they haven't had before.
Well, I think this is really a new, engaging version of the World's Fair exhibit. We've taken the large model and added projection mapping to it to sort of liven the space, liven the site. I think there are new stories as well, really digging into the past and looking at some of the new stories that hadn't been told before. And so really giving people a different perspective about the World's Fair exhibit.
They attribute their success to knowing what makes a good story and how to tell it.
We do a lot of research up front to understand what really visitors are looking for, number one, in engaging with experiences. We use our experience across all of our market sectors, so everything from theme parks to museums to zoos and aquariums. We use all of that knowledge to help inform our work. And, always keeping up on the trends. But ultimately, it's really finding the right deliverable for those stories, using the best tool to deliver the best story.
In the case of the World's Fair exhibit, that means finding modern ways for visitors to relate to an event that took place more than a century ago.
So there's a touchscreen component to this around the model. There are 4 different touchscreens. And it allows you to scroll through, read about different buildings, different parts of the fair. Information that may have been there before, but now it's a little bit more technology-driven this time around. There's also a massive 16 by 18 foot projection screen above the model, and this projects old imagery from 1904, from during the World's Fair.
But by far their biggest project to date is located far, far away from the arch, in Abu Dhabi.
The biggest project that I've worked on was the most recent SeaWorld Abu Dhabi project. That was about a 10-year-long project that we worked on. It's the world's largest aquarium. We were being asked to do things that we'd never done before, things that weren't ever done before, especially just in the grand scale of this massive aquarium. PJV had its hand on pretty much every element of the design, from the actual building of the aquarium all the way to the different shapes of the tanks, to the theming that went into the tanks, to the entire guest experience, the guest journey from beginning all the way through the end. There's media. We had our hands in pretty much everything to some degree with that project.
And as exciting as it may be to work on exhibits half a world away, Company Vice President Diane Lochner says she'd love to create an all-encompassing project in St. Louis.
I think really someplace that can really tell the comprehensive story of St. Louis. We have a lot of different museums in St. Louis, but one location that could really let us think about the full history of St. Louis, and maybe it's a big multimedia experience.
The designers say they plan to keep telling these immersive stories, from the future of the world's aquariums to the history of the World's Fair.
Next week, tune in to learn more about the new 1904 World's Fair exhibit from public historian Adam Kloppe.
With every stroke of the bow, every stroke of the brush, with every stroke of genius, the arts make life in St. Louis richer, not just emotionally, but also economically. In our region, the arts create $869 million a year in economic activity, supporting 12,000 jobs, generating $155 million for state and local governments, with more than 8 million annual arts-related visits. That's more than all St. Louis sporting events combined. Whether in a park, on a street, or a wall, experimental or a classic, the arts deserve our support, because the arts help support us. HEC Media is proud to be our region's home for arts, education, and culture. Because in St. Louis, the arts mean business.
History Spotlight, brought to you by HEC Media and the Missouri Historical Society.
Hello, I'm Dr. Jody Sowell, president of the Missouri Historical Society in St. Louis, and this is History Spotlight. Henry Townsend, a St. Louis blues icon, forged an unparalleled career spanning 9 decades and shaping the blues genre with his distinctive sound. Public historian Andrew Wonko shares his life and career.
Henry Townsend, a cornerstone of the St. Louis music scene, left an indelible mark on the blues genre, possibly holding the record for the longest blues career in history. Spanning 9 consecutive decades, Townsend's prolific musical journey is a testament to his enduring passion and talent. Let's delve into the remarkable career of this St. Louis legend. Born in Shelby, Mississippi and raised in Cairo, Illinois, Townsend's musical journey began when he ran away to East St. Louis at the age of 9. Influenced by the blues melodies of St. Louis musicians like Lonnie Johnson, Townsend received his first guitar from a woman named Corinne and made his first recordings at Wolf's Music Shop in 1929. His early recordings showcased his raw talent and earned him recognition within St. Louis's thriving blues community. In 1937, Townsend embarked on a recording session with other notable blues musicians like Sonny Boy Williamson and Robert Nighthawk at the Leland Hotel in Aurora, Illinois. These sessions produced influential tracks that defined the Bluebird beat, which would influence future generations of blues musicians across America. Despite temporarily stepping away from music in the late 1950s, Townsend was rediscovered during the folk revival of the 1960s. Musicologist Sam Charters facilitated Townsend's return to the stage, resulting in the release of his first full-length LP, Tired of Being Mistreated, in 1961. Townsend's musical career experienced another resurgence in the 1980s with the release of his album Mule on Nighthawk Records. His influential guitar playing and mentoring role endeared him to a new generation of musicians, solidifying his status as a revered figure in St. Louis music. Townsend's impact on St. Louis music spanned nearly a century, shaping the blues genre with his distinctive sound. In 2006, Henry Townsend passed away at the age of 96, leaving behind a legacy that resonates with blues enthusiasts worldwide. Posthumously, Townsend received a Grammy Award for his contribution to the album Last of the Great Mississippi Delta Bluesmen, live in Dallas, reaffirming his status as a blues icon. His musical journey epitomizes resilience, talent, and dedication, cementing his legacy as a St. Louis blues legend. His timeless recordings and enduring influence continue to inspire generations of musicians, ensuring that his contributions to the blues genre will be celebrated for years to come.
Next week on History Spotlight, a look at St. Louis's rich shoemaking history.
To learn more about the Missouri Historical Society, visit mohistory.org. For more St. Louis stories, subscribe to the HEC YouTube channel. Connect STL from HEC Media.
The obsession with protein is feeding a protein craze that's, well, everywhere.
When you go to the grocery store, there are lots of high-protein foods that are being marketed.
Feeding into research in this University of Missouri School of Medicine laboratory. Dr. Bettina Mittendorfer is the Senior Associate Dean for Research, and she's the Director of the Next Gen Precision Health Clinical and Translational Science Unit. Mittendorfer is leading the research about consuming protein and what amount is too much.
Protein is also added to different products. Particularly striking to me is that protein seems to be so popular that it is being added to water.
That's because a diet high in protein is promoted as part of a healthy lifestyle. Many diets encourage consumers to reduce carbohydrates and fats in favor of protein to lose weight and gain lean muscle. But studies show there is a limit for most people. Mittendorfer and her colleagues have uncovered how consuming too much protein in excess of the recommended daily allowance is bad for your health and does not add to the development of lean muscle.
So there's no more muscle growth with higher amounts of protein. So the recommended daily intake of protein is about 60 grams per day. And so when you assume 3 meals a day, this would come to about 20 grams, maybe even if you eat a little bit more, 30 grams of protein per meal in a day. The more protein you eat, the more synthesis of these muscle proteins happens. But then it levels off right around that 25 to 30 grams threshold. And so what that means actually is you can eat protein in excess of 25 to 30 grams in a meal, but you won't build any more muscle with that unless you're a resistance exercise training person and young potentially.
Otherwise, too much protein triggers signals at the cellular level that result in adverse cardiovascular and metabolic health effects.
High protein intake in various forms is associated with cardiometabolic diseases such as cardiovascular disease and type 2 diabetes and prediabetes.
The study combined small human trials with experiments in mice and cells. As consumption of the dietary protein increases, so does the consumption of the amino acid called leucine, found in animal protein foods such as beef, eggs, and milk. This is signaling and triggering the cellular activity in the macrophage cells in the blood.
The amino acids, they can trigger in the cell mechanisms that cause these diseases through specific signaling mechanisms and then also altering the metabolism of these cells. For instance, the macrophages that are small immune cells in the vasculature that trigger the development of atherosclerosis.
The resulting atherosclerosis, or hardening of the arteries, is a leading risk factor for heart attack and stroke. Additional clinical trials are needed to evaluate the effects of different amounts and types of dietary proteins on the signaling pathways. At that point, researchers can evaluate current dietary guidelines for protein intake and make recommendations.
For original programming and award-winning content, explore hecmedia.org. Find all of your favorite genres, including the arts and sciences. Go in-depth with the latest research. Get insight into new technologies. Learn about breakthrough discoveries. Find it all in one place. Explore hecmedia.org.
Well, here we are in beautiful Forest Park, one of the most beautiful parks in America, for our 24th season of Shakespeare in the Park. And this year the play is As You Like It, directed by Nancy Bell, running Tuesdays through Saturdays through June 23rd. This is the festival's 24th year. It started in 2001 right here by a group of people who thought that St. Louis ought to have a world-class free Shakespeare festival. And this is still, 24 years later, one of the biggest Shakespeare festivals between either coast. And on a given night, our audiences for Shakespeare are the largest anywhere in the world. So, St. Louis clearly loves Shakespeare, and we love being here in the park, so can't wait for folks to come out and see this year's show.
So if you've never seen Shakespeare before, this would be a really great introduction, especially because it's a comedy, it's very easy to understand, it's mostly written in prose, so a little more like the way we speak with a couple of flourishes and embellishments here and there. But it's really fun for anybody that loves love, that loves a rom-com, that loves watching gender dynamics play out. Anybody that is interested in exploring diversity in so many different ways. It's a huge celebration of love and, I think, community and people. So, As You Like It is one of Shakespeare's greatest comedies. I'm playing Rosalind, our heroine. She, with the help of some of her friends, ventures into the forest. She's dressed as a man and along the way runs into the man that she's in love with. upon discovering him, discovers he's in love with her, so she, as a man, decides to help him woo her. Unbeknownst to him, he doesn't know that she's the guy that he's talking to. So it's really fun, a lot of good gender dynamics.
That's the amazing thing about these plays, is that they resonate with us in different ways depending on what's happening in the world, what's happening in our own lives. And there's obviously things in them that speak to people across the centuries. One of the cool things about the festival is that there's no one way to do it. You can come enjoy the free seats in the back, bring your own chairs. You can make a reservation online to get a chair that we provide. There's some awesome VIP box packages. There's the blanket section. You can pack a picnic. You can come enjoy the food from Steve's and Fountain on Locust. So whatever works for you, just make your plans and come out and enjoy As You Like It this summer.
Later on Spotlight, a father-daughter muralist team. See the beautiful works they've created.
I need gentlemen, you guys are gonna go in and sit down and get ready for the lab, right? STEM lab. I'm gonna need you guys. The Village is a community service organization, but the heart and soul of what we do is we mentor young black males ages 6 to 18. I was in education for 20 years, and during that time, I realized that there was more that the community needed. I realized that there was more that I, as an individual, could do. What we do is we provide real life experiences. We believe that experience is the master teacher. We believe that they just had a chance to experience the possibilities of what life brings, that from what we've seen, that they naturally will choose their path and pick a direction that's healthy.
My name is Grant Williams. I'm 12 years old. I really like doing everything, meeting up with people, having fun, and doing some work and helping people.
My name is Dwayne, and I'm 11 years old. Why I also come to the Village is so they can help you get like your grades up and be respectful to your parents.
We just provide that space for them to be curious, for them to make mistakes, to burn their energy, and so parents love us.
So I joined the Village because my sons are coming home telling me about the Village, which is this program and these men and this guy Keenan who was, teaching them certain things, taking them certain places. So me being a father I wanted to investigate. And I came and investigated the program. I definitely loved Keenan and what he was doing, his passion for the kids. I also saw a need and decided to step in that role. I like dealing with the kids who have the most constraints, the boys who don't have structure at home, that come here and pour out and look out for those things. To have somebody to say they believe in you and also show up every other weekend to show you they believe in you, that we don't know everything bad about you, so we only treat you based off what we see.
There are so many ways to participate in the Village. We're always looking for donations. We're always looking for volunteers. Mentoring is not about the child. The learning is both ways.
You know what I like the most about the work? It's one thing to know that you'll help the young men gain certain experiences, right? But the other part of it is that as the mentors, we're experiencing things as well. So like just an example, we did kayaking on the Mississippi River. No one, and I mean absolutely no one, could have paid me to believe that I'll be riding any little thin boat in the middle of the muddy Mississippi River. But when I seen these young dudes, 6, 7, 8 years old, even though I'm trembling on the inside, I said, you know what, I'm gonna get out there anyway. These second and fourth Saturdays of each month is truly a journey.
We're asking for donations of irons and ironing boards so that we can teach the boys how to iron. We're asking for donations for toiletries so we can teach them how to groom themselves to make them more independent. So this is just the first step in a long process of building self-esteem and so that they can find that intrinsic motivation to be successful.
The blueprint that we're laying out now, the goal is for it to be duplicated outside of the St. Louis area, because we know that we are truly one of the best solutions to the issues of our at-risk youth in St. Louis.
We help some people in need, and we feed people that's in need, and we just help people in general, and we do some fun stuff at the end of it.
Our goal is to fill in whatever necessary gaps within every household so that the next generation can be raised healthy, whole, and have the same access to resources and learning opportunities and experiences across the board. The motto of the village is that if everybody does a little bit, then together we can change the world.
HEC Media. Recognized, celebrated, honored time and again for excellence in the industry. Mid-America Emmys, Tellys, Natoas, Auroras, and other awards. HEC Media has been bringing home the hardware for over a decade. Hundreds of nominations and wins, from regional to international levels. Arts and education to author talks, magazine shows and documentaries, individual craft achievements to overall excellence, plus so much more. And although doing good work is its own reward, recognition, well, it's nice too. See what all the fuss is about. Find all of the award-winning content at hecmedia.org. This rooftop garden has been nourishing body and soul for years, but it was completely obscured to passers-by until now.
Urban Harvest STL has long dreamed of beautifying the streetscape here at the Food Roof Farm. Food Roof Farm was built in 2015 and has continued to attract people for years. However, we realized from the street we weren't largely visible.
So they reached out to father and daughter team Robert and Liza Fishbone to create an eye-catching mural.
Each mural that we do is site-specific. We look at what happens in the area, what kind of people live here, is there a rich history we can tap into, what's the mission or the goal or the vision of the client.
So Urban Harvest STL exists to grow food and grow community, and I think that aspect of community growth is really tapped into with the mural.
This father and daughter team came together at the urging of Liza, a multidisciplinary artist in her own right, living in Austin, Texas, while Robert, a prolific visual artist, has been involved in over 200 mural projects, much of them with his late wife, Sarah.
This opportunity arose that my daughter caught wind of, and it was a contest here in St. Louis to design a mural for the west-facing wall of KDHX radio. I told Liza, I just don't think we could pull this off. And then 3 days before the application was due, she called me back. She goes, come on, dear, we got to enter. It's a lot of money, and besides, I want to learn how to paint big murals from you. Well, how could a father say no, right?
He has all of this old school knowledge. He's been doing this for over 40 years. And I come at it from like a younger place and a different kind of style. So it's a really cool collaboration.
Working with my daughter was a whole new relationship for us, and it really deepened our connection. If we weren't father and daughter, we'd be really best friends.
It took a lot of planning to transform this once bland building into this vibrant work of art.
We hosted him here at the Food Roof and sat amongst the plants and talked about the work Urban Harvest is doing in the community. From that conversation, we pulled the concept of nourishment. Food as nourishment, community as nourishment, and also art as nourishment.
The design process in any art is really pretty mysterious. It's like, how are you going to interpret this thing that, is maybe somewhat undefinable? And that's really where the art comes in, is how do we take our impressions, how do we take the goals, the building, the area, and filter it through the sum total of our experience and come up with something that's fresh and new and nourishing.
Not only did he look at our building from the exterior, looking at it from the street, but he also wanted to see the eyes of our own building out to the city and what it saw. And some of those elements are visible in the work that he ultimately ended up producing.
First was, let's create a mural that people will stop and go, whoa, what is this place? We wanted to embody some of their mission and about the plants that they grow on the roof. So the mural design is kind of psychedelic, but it's a little more peaceful than the other walls that we've done. And it has 4 of the flowers that we found on the roof. And then it also includes some design motifs that are inspired by the architecture surrounding the building.
I'd like to point out a few things of significance in the mural. The first is the entranceway, which we saw as a portal. And so we did this very ornate combination of architectural elements that we saw on buildings in the neighborhood. And then we just created this opening. And we left the center a little bit simple so that your eye is drawn towards it and not confused. The flowers that we picked they're not vegetables, which are what are grown on the roof. They're actually flowers that attract pollinators, which is, of course, one of the most important issues facing anyone growing food today is how do you attract pollinators for your garden? Then all the way up in the upper left, you'll see these little bubbles. And that's something that we just like to add to our murals. They give it a sense of lightness and mystery and wonder and whimsy and fantasy. And then the mural is done in a way to make it look like the building is cut away and you can see actually into the building. And that's one of the reasons why we have the green go behind the portal and then back. So it really looks like the portal is a freestanding element. One of the challenges that all mural painters have to deal with is how do we take our design and make it really big on the wall? There are several different techniques that are used. The easiest one is we take our design, then we do a black line tracing of everything in it, so it looks like a coloring book, and we photograph that and we throw it up with a video projector.
Since this project was about growing both food and community members were invited to participate in the painting process, including volunteers from Wells Fargo, and even passers-by who wanted to help. So what happened if they messed up?
It's paint, we just paint over it.
Another challenge is impermanence. Much of Robert and Sarah's work has been lost to time, deterioration, and rehab.
Everything is impermanent. It took us a while to really adopt that as mural painters. The first few years, we had a lot of work up. It stayed in great shape. When our Lindy Squared mural got torn down, it really hit us hard. We didn't quite understand how important it was, not just to the city, but to us. And we just realized, okay, they're here, they're gone, it's our job. And so we had to make this transition.
But for today and into the distant future,
it's become a community asset. It's at a street corner that's heavily trafficked here in St. Louis and invites people to just sort of celebrate the colorfulness and the vibrancy of the city.
It's all about elevating people's spirits.
Next week, we'll take you inside the new World's Fair exhibit at the History Museum. Plus, from prison to starting a nonprofit and winning an award, how this man turned his life around. Thanks for watching Spotlight. Join us next Sunday at 9:30 a.m. on KPLR 11.